event that cost the life of rapper Takeoff. More truth is being revealed as to what really went down on that fateful night. Names have been called, arrests have been made, and the authorities are getting closer to solving this mystery. But the truths unfolding in this case is leaving fans beyond devastated. Offset speaks on Takeoff's passing. Rapper Offset, who was Takeoff's cousin, has been accused on social media of being the person behind Takeoff's hit. Offset, who had just left the Migos a couple of months before the tragedy, has, however, shared his grieving process on social media in a bid to convince fans that he wasn't involved in the hit of Takeoff. He was the first member of the family to share a reaction after Takeoff passed away. He changed his Instagram header to a photo of Takeoff and his Twitter avi to a group picture of himself, Takeoff, and Quavo. Offset has openly shared his grief by posting pictures and tributes to Takeoff on social media. His wife Cardi B once spoke about how tough Takeoff's passing is on her husband. She claimed that she has been hopeless trying to make her husband happy. Offset gave an emotional speech during Takeoff's funeral where he choked up in tears, trying to apologize to Takeoff for not being by his side and ending their brotherhood over a silly falling out. In his tribute, Offset also gave Takeoff his flowers as he credited him for Migos' flow that would change the culture of music forever. You did that, Take. You changed that flow. That flow came from Take, the originator, he said while fighting back the tears. Offset was heard saying during his emotional speech, met with cheers from the crowd, "Lord, give us some strength. Just give us some strength. I don't want to question you, God, but I just don't get it. I don't get you sometimes, and I believe in you, Father," he added as he held back tears. Offset has had a couple of performances since Takeoff's passing, and in all of these events, he makes sure to introduce Takeoff's tribute before every show. The remembrance includes a photo of Takeoff being projected onto the on-stage screen as the Jackson 5's Never Can Say Goodbye plays through the venue's speaker. "For every show, I love you, bro," Offset caption of the tribute, which was taken at a recent show. Quavo blamed for Takeoff's passing. Rapper Quavo, who was Takeoff's uncle, has also faced massive backlash on social media over the passing of Takeoff. Many people believe that Quavo was the reason why Takeoff was taken out, and with the new information coming out of the investigations, the people might just be right. The earlier information on what went down that fateful night of Takeoff's passing revealed that Quavo, who was also at the party, had got himself involved in an argument with a group of guys who have been identified as Jay Prince's men and members of certain mob ties. In a video sharing on social media, Quavo was seen arguing with these people, while Takeoff stood by and watched while they argued. The fight escalated, and Quavo seemed upset over the argument and was hasty to leave the conversation because he didn't want anything drastic to happen. He said to his friends, "Let's go. I ain't doing like this before I hurt somebody, bro." He was seen walking away, and just a few seconds after he turned to leave, the sounds went off, and Takeoff got hit. The new information, however, reveals that the rounds went off after a punch was thrown in Quavo's defense. An affidavit released by the court mapped out a timeline of events that led to Takeoff's unfortunate passing. The affidavit said Quavo was in the middle of a lucrative dice game out of the A10 billiards and bowling alley in Houston, Texas, when he got into an argument after losing money to two people. One man, identified as Willie Bland, reportedly got into an altercation with one of the individuals to whom Quavo lost his money. From there, two people fired off, with Bland being confirmed as one of the people. The affidavit noted Bland's location at the time of the exchange was not consistent with injuries by Takeoff to blame him for the rapper's hit. The affidavit stated alleged Takeoff's hitman, who has now been identified as Patrick Xavier Clark, was the only person seen firing off a weapon from an angle that matched the hit that Takeoff suffered. Clark, who has since been arrested, was charged because of fingerprints left on a wine bottle he was holding during the tragic incident. The wine bottle was left in the bowling alley's parking lot ahead of Clark fleeing to the House of Blues. Takeoff's alleged hitman arrested. On December 1st, exactly 1 month after Takeoff's passing, a man who has since been identified as Patrick Xavier Clark was arrested and charged with taking Takeoff out. After the tragic event of Takeoff's passing, several videos made media rounds showing a couple of men who may have fired the weapon. Clark, who is also known as DJ Pat, became a person of interest after one of the clips showed him firing his weapon and holding a bottle of wine in his other hand. After a thorough investigation of witnesses' cameras and surveillance footage, the authorities authorities were able to pin Clark on their list of suspects. But his arrest and charges didn't come until after. Clark was arrested after making suspicious moves that indicated he may have had a hand in the unfortunate incident. He raised suspicions after applying for an expedited passport and submitting an itinerary for a trip to Mexico. Clark made these moves a couple of days after takeoff passed. It left the authorities wondering why he would want to flee the country if he was innocent. To top it off, Clark was also found with a huge sum of cash on his person when the authorities made his arrest. According to his defense attorney, Clark had truly received a passport and booked tickets, but it was a planned vacation to Mexico and not a planned escape. That's something that was pre-planned, and it was canceled before he was arrested. I think that's important. He wasn't trying to go anywhere, defense attorney Leticia Quiones said. His attorney reiterated that Clark is innocent until proven guilty. In an appearance in court, Clark's attorney said that he wasn't the person who carried out the hit on takeoff. Leticia Quiones said her client is nervous and concerned because he is being charged with something that he believes he's innocent of. So how would anyone do in that type of circumstance? What's happening to Clark in jail?
My inspiration is just flowing and coming.
We can drag one of these chord progressions in. Boom, just like that.
All you have to do is bring up a synth, drag the progression in, and now we have a chord progression to work with.
Since Clark's arrest, a lot has happened to him in jail. While the general public is pleased that the authorities are following up with the investigation, Clark is doing his best to prove that he is innocent and has nothing to do with Takeoff's hit. To start with, Clark's bond has been set at $2 million. However, it doesn't seem like Clark would be getting out of jail anytime soon, as his family is having a difficult time paying for his attorneys and even hiring a private investigator. Even if his bond gets paid, the court has placed some conditions that must be met following his release on bail. According to the prosecutors, if Clark is released on bail, he must abide by the following conditions. Clark must not be seen talking or being close to a specific list of people, including Takeoff's family, Jay Prince Jr. and his family, as well as Shakur Stevenson, who was hanging out with Quavo and Takeoff on the fateful night, as well as anyone from Shakur's place of employment. During his court appearance on Monday, December 5th, 2022, it was discussed that certain names were to be taken away from his bond conditions, people he is not allowed to contact if he posts bond. Clark's attorney, Ken Schaefer, told news outlets there was no reason to put Mr. Prince's family's name in the bond conditions. The state agreed, and it will be removed. It's unknown whether the family would have that amount of money to pay his bond, but from the looks of things going down for Clark behind bars, he might be in there for a long while. Clark, however, pleaded with the court that his bond fee is reduced to a sum of $100,000, which he believed he could pull together with the help of a professional bondsman. Alongside his reduction plea, Clark also added that he'd wear a GPS monitor and abide by any curfew that the judge may impose. He will surrender his passport and follow any no-contact order concerning certain people. Quite recently, Clark and his attorneys sought out the aid of the court in hiring a private investigator to carry out investigations on his behalf. He asked the court for $5,000 as his family couldn't afford to pay the amount after hiring an attorney, who even agreed to take his case for a lesser price. Clark, who is bent on proving that he wasn't the one who took out Takeoff, told the court that the private investigator would be needed to properly investigate and effectively prepare him and his legal team to defend themselves during the trial. He also told the court that they have found a private investigator who also agreed to a reduced rate of $85 per hour. Luckily for Clark, the court granted the motion and released $5,000 for investigative fees and expenses. The private investigator will also be allowed to access Clark in jail with a laptop, printer, and audio recording device. While Clark is doing everything to prove his innocence, fans can't help but question the fact that he might actually be innocent. But if it wasn't him who took out Takeoff, then who did? Other suspects in Takeoff's passing. There have been other suspects in the case involving Takeoff's hit, and long before Patrick Xavier Clark was arrested, everyone was certain that the person who carried out the hit was Joshua Cameron Isaiah, who was also known as Lil Cam from Fifth Ward. Lil Cam was arrested sometime in November 2022, but while people expected that he would be arrested and charged with taking out Takeoff, that wasn't the case. People expected that Lil Cam would be charged with the hit because the viral footage from the tragic event seemed to show him as the hitman, and the viral video video, just after Quavo decided to walk away from the argument, a man in a yellow hoodie slipped into the frame and was seen standing right next to Takeoff. People believe this man to be none other than Lil Cam. The very moment Quavo turned away, Lil Cam was seen turning to face Takeoff right before the rounds went off. Well, the clip convinced viewers that Lil Cam carried out the hit, but he wasn't charged for it. Instead, he was charged for unlawfully and intentionally carrying a weapon onto premises that he had no ownership over. Lil Cam was arrested because he had previously been prohibited from possessing a weapon. Additionally, Lil Cam, a convicted felon on charges of grand theft from October 2022, was in violation of the terms of his existing bond. His arrest seemed futile to the case until November 30th, 2022. Lil Cam was officially charged in connection with the case. According to reports, he was charged with illegally carrying a weapon that very day, and on the same premises where Takeoff was hit. He was arraigned before a judge on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022, where the prosecutors made a confusing statement. According to reports, the claims that Lil Cam, a suspect in the case, is not believed to have fired the weapon during Takeoff's hit. The prosecutors claim surveillance footage showed Lil Cam flashing a weapon at the crime scene, but the district attorney's office didn't go so far as to accuse him of firing the hit that took out Takeoff. We believe Cameron Joshua has been appropriately charged in this case, lead prosecutor Matt Gilliam